Hi, I'm Coach Amber, and welcome to the MeatRx Success Story. Today we have Jamie with us, and he's going to be sharing his success story with the meat-based diet. Welcome, Jamie.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Okay, so Jamie, tell us a little bit about your life and your health prior to starting a meat-based diet.
So I'm about a month away from being 49, and I guess in my early 20s, I started weightlifting, and that helped improve my, physical stature and so on. But in university, got introduced into the whole vegetarian mindset. So I did a kind of a fruitarian thing for a number of years. And like a lot of people, when they make a diet transition, they feel good at first. But I had this inability to stay awake at about 1 or 2 in the afternoon following that. And once you get used to it, you kind of dig deeper, right? You think, I just have to do it harder and more. But then for whatever reason, I was living in Korea at the time and just decided to change the diet. And I started eating, kind of a typically Korean balanced meal. And I think within a day, I didn't feel sleepy in the afternoon. But I still kind of went more towards a more fish-based diet with vegetables and a lot of rice after that, living in Korea. Did that for a number of years and continue with the weight training. So that helps keep your body composition fairly decent. Lived in Canada at the time, where I'm from. And then probably like 9-10 years ago, I got into the keto way of eating. And what was interesting is by that time I was doing annual health checks here in Japan, and notwithstanding the questions we have about cholesterol and what it means and all of that, it was really interesting that when I dropped the carbs, the starchy carbs, and started really increasing my uptake of saturated fat and butter and eggs, that my cholesterol levels actually moved within the ideal targets of the guidelines. So just like you would read that, it's actually carbohydrates that are wrecking your metabolism, I saw that kind of result. But I still, in my early 40s, would wake up with sore joints, and I'd have to work, move around for half an hour before I felt liquid and good. And then after I saw ShawnBaker on Joe Rogan, I said, why not? Hearing that vegetables may actually have a cost to your health was a novel idea. And, I really think now that for the last 3 years, like I have no joint pain. I lift heavier weights than I did when I was 22. I weigh a lot less, actually. My weight stays about, I don't know how to actually make it go much above 180 pounds. It's really hard because of the satiation of the way of eating. It would feel like I have to make a concerted effort to kind of stuff myself. I probably at my peak in my early 20s, I maybe got up to about 205, 5'11". So lifting more weights at this age than I did then, that's part of a consistent program too. But, I think, my health checks come in like A+ across the board, except the kidney, whatever that kidney marker is that they think, if you eat too much protein, you score high on that. But all the other markers are, picture perfect, except my failing vision. But I don't know if there's a meat or organ meat for that. But so it's just been a continual tweaking. But what it's interesting to see is that as I've gotten older, it's actually quite easy to maintain my body composition. I eat twice a day as a result. I think a lot of people end up feeling they can't eat more than that. And I do other things too, like here in Japan, where I live in Tokyo, we have access to public baths where you have saunas and hot baths and cold baths. And that's part of my routine too. And all of these things work together to just make me feel really good about where I am right now.
That's awesome. So when you first started a meat-based diet, how did you implement it? You talk about how you eat 2 meals a day. Tell us about a typical day and how did you approach it? And did you have any transitional issues?
I don't think I had much because I was already starchy carb free. So it was just cutting back the vegetables. My brother's kind of started to move in this direction now, and he had a few rough weeks because he was eating really poorly. But for me, it wasn't that tough. And I'd heard about things like make sure you take care of your electrolytes and that kind of thing. And here in Tokyo, so I'm standing in my Canadian wine store, and I live about 30 seconds away. So I don't have as many challenges that a lot of people do who move around in their daily life trying to find the appropriate food at a restaurant and so on. I'm able to really manage what I eat. And we have we have an excellent infrastructure for online delivery here. So I'm able to order grass-fed meats mostly out of Australia and New Zealand. I have probably 10 kilos of meat arriving today. So it's been really easy. Oh, and then of course we're in Japan where, fresh food is abundant, and we can get all kinds of fresh fish and chicken livers and things like that. And the supermarkets here, an hour before closing or so, everything's 50% off. So you can get, one of the things people often say is they think it's really expensive to eat this way, but I can buy 10 eggs here for probably about $2.50 US. If you eat 6 or 8 eggs for lunch, you can't get much cheaper than that. That's what you would spend for a croissant and a coffee at a Starbucks, probably cheaper. And then, we pick up 2 nights ago, we went to the public bath, did the sauna and everything, straight to the supermarket nearby, and bought enough sashimi for the 2 of us, and it was about $10 American, So it's really easy to, I think, eat an ancestral meat-based, fish-based diet here. And so I don't have any trouble with that. But I do notice when I travel, then suddenly you realize the food landscape is really set against you. So, but I'll just make a decision to double order of, a steak and spend a little extra that meal, or I'll just skip it. We went to a resort town here recently where the Japanese traditional hotels, they'll include your dinners and your breakfast. And, just from a culinary point of view, it's really excellent. But for my goals, I'm staring at a bunch of little tofu dishes and things like that. And I just decided my wife felt like eating breakfast. So I gave her my fish and a few pieces of meat. And I just said, I'll just wait till this afternoon. And I do that. So using fasting. So basically, first meal probably is between noon and 2:30. Start running this business at 3, so time that way. Go to the gym every second day, always without eating prior to that. And then we'll eat dinner at about 8ish. And I have a wine business, so I'll full disclosure, I'll drink nearly a bottle of wine every day, but my liver scores are perfect. If that changes, I'll adjust that. But what I really think it is the combination of sparing the liver its burdens through a kind of intermittent fasting plus almost no carbohydrates makes that possible.
Well, that sounds great. I'm sure a lot of people would love to be able to do the same.
Yeah, I like wine more than I like bread or pasta, so that was the decision. Stick with what I love. So.
Well, there you go. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would agree with you there. Okay, so Jamie, you talked a little bit about some of the benefits that you noticed when you moved to a more meat-based diet, but could you kind of go through and tell us what kind of things did you notice that have improved? And was there anything that kind of shocked you that you weren't expecting?
Yeah, I think it's a milder transition, but I think combined with the fact I've been getting older at the same time doing this, like I think physically, one thing, like I pushed myself brief and hard in my weightlifting, and I almost never have sore muscles, which is I think something that's pretty good. So it really speaks to the kind of recovery that you get. It's easy, especially if I'm out doing an event somewhere. I can basically go all day without eating. It's not really a problem. That kind of freedom from feeling you need to eat all the time is a great one. Mental clarity is brilliant. And on the occasion where I've decided to just eat the standard dinner plate, it's incredible the impact on after eating of like processing all that carbohydrate, the dip in your energy, the sluggishness that comes with it, and that's just not part of my life. So it's and I think the extended ability to just to do things is great, and the people that don't yet know how good you can feel without carbohydrates, it's just a consistent, steady state energy that I think is the way you want to live your life. Yeah, and I think just, you know, not having joint pain, feeling like great recovery potential and that sort of thing. I think the bigger transition is obviously if someone goes straight from a really poor diet. You know, I think a lot of people here have talked about how they did keto first and that was good, but then they felt even better. You know, digestion, contrary, you know the usual suspects. People say, "Oh, what about fiber and all that?" But your digestion is way better. It's much more efficient. I think it kind of looks absurd when you look at it in a different way, that you stuff yourself full of fiber in order to pass that fiber. Well, why don't you just go towards food that will be absorbed more efficiently in the first place? And you know, and just in terms of weight control, I've never, like, probably in my late teens when I was stopped playing sports, drinking excessively as a teenager and all that, my weight started to creep up, and I didn't like, you know, getting a bit of a midsection. So that's why I started to lift weights. But I wear the same size pants that I did when I was in my teens. But it's effortless, you know, and in fact, I often overeat. I don't know if this is a common thing. You know, I try to build that hunger. So I'm truly hungry when I eat my first meal. And I often think in hindsight, oh, I probably could have cut that back by 10 or 20%, but it still doesn't affect my weight. Like it's really amazing how your body knows how to regulate itself. And I think it's when you're in fat burning mode, you just really eat the right amount of food and you feel satisfied. So satiation is a big one, you know, not being hungry.
I could not agree with you more. I think that is one of the biggest things for me too, is finally dealing with that hunger hormone. So I totally agree with you there. Well,
Yeah.
Jamie, it has been a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you so very much for sharing your success story. I think it's important that people hear these stories.
Thanks for having me. And I would just like to put a plug into, you know, the last year has been an insane time for questions of health and how we live in the world. And if you look at the correlates between poor COVID outcomes and obesity, it jumps off the page. And we have to get our heads out of the sand and recognize that that's our potential to live as vital humans, is to address those issues. Even with vaccines, people with obesity issues are still looking at the least effectivity from those sorts of measures, but obesity will, eliminating your obesity will make you more resilient. And I want a world where we live vital lives and not be holed up in our basements with masks. And so let's take the courage to talk to one or two people in your life that might be open to listening, because everything's stacked against us right now, putting out a message of living healthy and with vitality.
Perfect ending. Thank you so much, Jamie. And you have a wonderful evening.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.